Hello, and welcome to the podcast, the Main Event 365 podcast made by musicians who love football, specifically Detroit Lions football. I'm your host, Main Event Mike, joined as always by our producer, Mr. Russ Wayne. How's it going tonight, Russ?
Man, it could be better, but we're going to talk about it.
Darn right. We're going to start this show the way we do always. We're going to take a look back at the Lions' last game, and it has been par for the course. We are coming off a loss. Lions fall to the Miami Dolphins 31-27, and their record falls to 1-6 and bottom basement of the NFC North Division. 31-27, Dolphins come in, pull it out in the second half because the Lions have a complete collapse in the second half. Tua Tagovailoa throws 29 for 36 for 369 yards, 3 touchdowns, while Jared Goff went 27 for 37 for 311 and 1 touchdown. No turnovers by the Goffense, but a total collapse on defense. They couldn't stop Miami at all. Their incredible duo of wide receivers, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, ran crazy on us in the secondary. 20 catches, nearly 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. All over the place. What are your initial reactions from this debilitating Lions loss, Russ?
Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill are really, really good. That's my initial reaction. It's like, wow, boy, like we need to send a memo out. The minute that somebody figures out how to stop these guys, they need to like send an email blast out to the rest of the league, because these guys, they create speed mismatches that are unbelievable. This Miami offense is for real, and our defense is the opposite of whatever real is. Unreally bad. Our secondary, they couldn't cover the guy with no legs, right? It was awful to see. AJ Parker just getting torched. Like there was no answer for the deep. The offense played a really, really good game as far as one half is concerned, but then, they only had, I think they only had like 3 possessions in the second half, and first possession was like, 30 yards backed up, and it just wasn't good. Another poor performance out of the Lions. My initial reaction was half of it was awesome, and the other half was the opposite of that.
It's kind of been like a broken record this season. They can't seem to put 2 halves together. We talked about it Monday on the main stage, and it's really, really getting old and tiring. And then, of course, with the trade news today at the trade deadline, the things that the Lions did kind of feels like maybe they're not trying as hard this year to win this year. But let's talk about the Miami game. Let's stay focused on that. We usually do a who's to blame here. Well, the Lions decided who was to blame, and they decided it was secondary coach Aubrey Pleasant. Flint, Michigan native Aubrey Pleasant, fired by the Detroit Lions. His unit was specifically bad on Sunday with Amani Oruwariye, AJ Parker. These guys just getting torched. There were a couple of bright spots. Kirby Joseph forced a fumble, but the secondary looked terrible. There's a comical picture out there on the internet of Aurorier lined up a yard past the football on the Miami side of the field, and it's just like, what are you thinking? And I invite all of our listeners to always, anytime you can head over to the YouTube channel and watch this broadcast, and you can see these pictures our great producer's putting up, and he's put up that picture of Amani looking down the line. He is 1 yard into the Miami backfield.
I mean, how do you do that? I mean, look at that.
How do you do that? Who is responsible for that? And he's even looking in the picture, he's looking right at the camera, he's looking right down the line. How do you look down there and not realize that you are lined up on the other side of the ball?
You think I'm good, guys? Hey, does anybody see where I'm? Hey, I mean, come on, man.
Someone has to be to blame for that. Somebody, I mean, if Aubrey Pleasant had to go out onto the field and go, see this? It's the 2 yard line. See this? It's the 1 yard line. The ball is on the 1 yard line. Therefore, you cannot be on the 2 yard line. How hard is that? Come on. That's just bonehead. And the worst part about it, this happened twice
in a row.
This picture isn't a single incident. This happened twice. Someone has to be to blame for that. Obviously, some heads were going to roll, and unfortunately, it had to be Aubrey Pleasant. I believe that they lit a fire under Dan Campbell and said something's got to give. Brad Holmes did not, as we said many times, Brad Holmes did not hire Dan Campbell. He did not hire this coaching staff. So when you've got egregious things like that going on in the secondary, it's not really that surprising that, you've got to be held accountable when you're the coach. Aubrey Pleasant, do you think he was a scapegoat, though? I mean, was it legit or was it a scapegoat?
I think it comes off as a scapegoat, but the rumor has it that he went kind of commando in the game. And, if you're not a team player, it doesn't really matter how good you are as a coach, that it's going to create a problem if you're going to go against what the whole big plan would be. So if that's true, then to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't even know if they had planned on getting rid of anybody, but if he was doing that, you got to go if you're not going to be with the big plan. But I mean, I could see it being a scapegoat because to me, in my opinion, you shouldn't fire anybody year two. And I don't care about any of that 1957 stuff. I just know that they started this in 2020, and this is the second year of this rebuild. So you don't pull the tires off with the coaching, but somebody had to pay for it. So I think from the outside, it looks like a scapegoat. But like I said, if he was in there messing with the game plans and going rogue, then he had to go.
Then in that case, he wouldn't be a scapegoat. I mean, we could sit here and talk about hypotheticals. Had the defensive secondary not played so poorly, would Aubrey Pleasant still have been fired? Well, if the defensive secondary hadn't played so poorly, we would have won the game. So we wouldn't be having this conversation and we wouldn't need a scapegoat. But I think it's a little of both. I think it was warranted just because of how poorly his players were playing. They let him down.
Yeah.
And then he had, I mean, you're 1-6. You've got to at least show the fan base you're doing something. Right. So I think in some respects, he was a scapegoat when you look at it in that context. So anything else to add about Aubrey Pleasant, Russ?
Well, what I wanted to say was, like, Dan, even in the presser afterwards, he spoke glowingly of Aubrey Pleasant. Like, he's done some stuff. Like, I remember last year when he was in this, this was during the San Francisco game, this picture where, he kind of got into Okuda's face and, and jarred some of this and pulled some of this greatness out of him. And I think that Jeff Okudah, Tracy Walker would have that. They're going to have to thank Aubrey Pleasant a lot, because I think that their development and them being as good as they are at this point has a lot to do with his coaching.
Right. Jeff Okudah, one of the few bright spots, he actually did play pretty well, even though both of these receivers were torching us. Something that you alluded to was it seemed to be they were throwing away from Okudah. If they put Okudah on Waddle, then Hill got the call, and vice versa.
And wouldn't you do it? I mean, you're the coach, right? So you would be like, hey, like the Okudah's pretty good. Why even test that? So hey, when you're out there, Tua Tagovailoa, however you ever say his name, Tua, I would just say Tua, like, just throw to the other guy, find the other guy. And he did it very well.
Yeah, because, Okudah is shaping up to be a real solid NFL cornerback. The rest of those guys probably wouldn't even make another NFL team. The offense did look good in the first half. They came out on fire. 14-0, 21-7. They kept this lead, and then at halftime they were up 27-17. You and I were high-fiving.
That's
we were in
right.
The Lions den. We were high-fiving, having a good old time. And then you and I took a run. We left, and we came back, and the wheels came off.
Yeah. Did we ruin it? Was it us? Should we have not left the Lions Den? Maybe it was on us.
I feel like it. I feel like if we hadn't left, it might have been different. Yeah, no, just kidding.
No, it just seems like they run this script, kind of predict that it's going to happen. When they went into the 1st and 30, you and I were driving in the truck, and it's like, look, man, here's the drive where they completely get derailed by just offensive mistakes and putting himself behind the 8 ball. And then they had the referee drive where you're looking at a couple calls, and that's where we're at on the timeline anyway. So I don't think it's going to be anybody's too surprised, but here we are on the timeline. We got to complain about the referees a little bit.
Yep.
Didn't you see what I saw when we were driving down with Goff, and he was trying to move into the hurry up offense and everything like that, and there's the referee just kind of dragging, and I was like, wow, God forbid we'd want to catch him off guard or something, or do the hurry up offense, because you're not letting us do it. What do you think about that? I know we're off topic a little bit, but what do you think about that?
No, that's right. The announcers even said that one of the defensive players had kicked the ball, and that's what the delay was. Well,
really?
99 times out of 100, that's a delay of game penalty on the defense. So why wasn't that called? I mean, as Lions fans,
Right.
we're used to complaining about the refs, but there were some really bad ones. There was a 3rd and 18. The Lions stopped them, and there was an illegal contact. To this day, I cannot find any footage of that play anywhere on a replay, anywhere on YouTube. I can't find a replay that shows what the penalty was.
The plot thickens. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. So that was a 3rd and 18. What happens? They score on the very next play.
Yep. And what is that? A 4-point swing? How many points did we lose by? I'm just curious. I don't remember.
Yeah, we lost by 4. The offense did look good for the first half. I mean, they were on fire. They could seem to do no wrong. On the Dolphins' first drive, our defense, Kirby Joseph, the rookie safety, forced a turnover, recovered by Malcolm Rodriguez, the rookie linebacker. And after that, Miami scored on every possession the rest of the way. The Lions came out in the 3rd quarter with a 10-point lead and had probably the worst drive in franchise history. Started with 3 penalties, 2 by Penei Sewell, surprisingly. Yeah. And the penalties just kept coming for the Lions, and the wheels just kept coming off for the second half. I'm ready to put this game in the rear view. Usually we talk about the last game a little bit more than this. Yeah. But I'm just
I'm good with that.
Disgusted by it. I mean, we do have some positive takeaways that we want to highlight. Why don't you get us started on bright spots for this game for the Lions?
You want bright spots? I'm going to keep on going down this tunnel right here. Is Brad Holmes is the bright spot. Anything that Brad Holmes has touched is the bright spot for this team. So you just alluded to that 10 seconds ago, where Kirby Joseph forced the turnover and Malcolm Rodriguez recovered the fumble. Aiden Hutchinson looks pretty good. I think that he was taken out of this game, and so were the defensive linemen, because of their style of play.
Because Tua gets the ball out so quick, right?
He just gets the ball out quick. I mean, it wasn't like that on every single play. They definitely do need to get home and play better, but their scheme did take them out of the game a little bit. But no, the rookies, I mean, look at across the board, Penei, well, then we just talked about how Penei Sewell had 2 false starts, but for the most part, Penei Sewell has been rock solid. Aleem McNeil has been good. I had a Derek Barnes sighting in this game. It seems like everything that Holmes has done, like when you're looking at future, like 2023 and beyond, some of these guys may not be here next year, but those guys are going to be here, and they're going to be contributors for this team going forward. So that's the bright spots for me, is the future looks good. Brad Holmes looks good.
Yeah, definitely. Every week when we talk about positive takeaways, it seems like we're always highlighting this rookie class that Brad Holmes has put together. And he really seems to be a good evaluator of talent. We're getting a lot of punch out of our rookies, a lot of bang for our buck, and that's great. I think some other bright spots in this game. Jeff Okudah played pretty well. We touched on that.
Yep.
Jared Goff wasn't awful. He wasn't terrible. last possession of the game for the Lions on a 4th down. He made a bad throw. Josh Reynolds almost made a spectacular catch to get it. A lot of people on the internet today are rehashing that play, saying Lions should have ran it. But if you go back and look at the replay, everyone was covered. Everyone was Amon-Ra St. Brown covered. DeAndre Swift out of the backfield covered. TJ Hockenson covered. He had to make a play. If he was a little bit more mobile, if we had Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson, we'd have got that first down. It was only 4th and 2. 4th and 2. And he throws it 30 yards into the end zone. And it was a bad throw. Josh Reynolds had a step on the defender. He's heading to the right. The throw comes to the left. He has to adjust on the fly, make a diving catch. Not good. But Jared Goff, other than that throw, I can't put this loss on Jared. He's not the one creating all these penalties. He looked pretty solid. So I believe it or not, Jared Goff gets a bright spot for me.
I like it.
Mm-hmm. So that does it. Let's put that 31-27 loss in the rearview mirror. Put a bow on it. It's over. Lions lose to the Dolphins. We got Green Bay coming at home next week. Before we take a look at that Green Bay game, though, I'd like to remind everyone to head on over to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and please comment and like all of our content and try to keep the main event 365 going. 365 days a year, we are bringing you Detroit Lions content. Before we look ahead to next week's game, we're also going to talk about the trade deadline, which happened today. And the Lions were a major player in the trade deadline drama, dealing former first-round pick, former 10th overall pick, TJ Hockenson, to division rival Minnesota Vikings. There's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of misinformation on the internet today about what the details of the trade are. So we're going to give you the straight poop right from Adam Schefter. Lions get a 2nd round pick in the 2023 upcoming draft. They also get a 3rd round pick in the 24 draft. They also give up their 4th round pick in the 23 draft and a 4th round pick in the 24 draft, which is contingent if the Vikings win a playoff game. If they do not win a playoff game, that becomes a 4th round pick. If they do, then it becomes a 5th round pick that the Lions will have to give up. So I want you to give me your analysis on this TJ Hockenson trade, what the Lions got, what they gave up. Tell me, Russ, who won this trade?
I think they actually...
Wait, hold on. Homer alert. Go ahead.
I think they both won the trade. I think that TJ Hockenson fits what the Vikings are doing right there, and that they're ahead of the division right now. They have a clear lead. They're making a run because I think that they believe that they can make a deep playoff run, and I actually can kind of back that up too, because the Vikings look pretty good, and with TJ Hockenson they're going to be even better. So I think it works for the Vikings. It also works very well. So I would actually lean to say that we got the better end of the deal, because we got draft picks in not only 2023 but 2024. So you've spread your talent across 2 years. So I like that deal. I like the fact that it's performance based, because that 4th round pick turns into a 5th round pick if they don't win a playoff game. So they got protected on that end. And right here, I want to caution since I'm a homer, all of the SOL people out there that think that they needed to get a 1st round pick for TJ Hockenson. Are you crazy? I mean, I'm not an SOL fan, but I also know what SOL is. And what SOL is drafting a tight end in the 1st round. Now, just because we are dumb enough to do that, it doesn't mean that the rest of the league is going to be dumb enough to trade a 1st round pick to get him in return, where his production has been average to below average at best through his entire career. So a 2nd and 3rd round pick. Another great move, I believe, by Brad Holmes in working on the future. He did not draft TJ Hockenson. I think that has something to do with it also. So I think that we won the trade by a little bit, but it's going to work out really well for the Vikings too.
Wow, I'm proud of you, Russ. That was a very good take, very objective take. Definitely pointing out that the Vikings did pretty well in this trade when you consider that they are 6-1. And this could be a complimentary piece, a statement piece to add to the team that just might push them over the hump and give them a deep playoff run. So kudos to Minnesota. I think it signals, though, for the Lions that they don't expect to win this year. I mean, what the Minnesota Vikings record is totally irrelevant to the Lions. They're trying to build something here in Detroit, and whatever the Vikings are doing is irrelevant to that. And the opponents to this trade will say, well, now you're going to have to play TJ Hockenson every year. Not necessarily. He might not stay in Minnesota. They're going to have to pay him if they want him to stay in Minnesota. And don't forget that second round pick that we're going to get, they're going to have to play against that second round pick as well against us. So I think that goes both ways. Their starting tight end, Irv Smith Jr., did suffer a high ankle sprain. So they filled a need. So kudos to them. They get one of the top 10 tight ends in the league. And that really adds to their offensive firepower to go with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. Now they have Hockenson, the tight end that leads the league in yards after catch. They're going to be much better offensively. So I think that the unknown is what we're going to get in these picks. The known commodity, I think Hawkinson's a great player. He's one of the best players we had on our team. And I think I'm going to have to give the edge to the Vikings in this trade after further evaluation of what it all gets. I thought we were going to get like 3 picks in this round, or in this draft coming up, and then 2 in the next. So it would be 5 total picks, but that's not the case. So after further evaluation, we're getting 2, we're giving up 2. They're just higher round selections for us. That's not great trade value, in my opinion, especially when you're giving up a great player like TJ Hockenson. So I'm going to have to give the edge to the Vikings on this one. They didn't just pull our pants down on the playground like maybe we did to them on draft day, I think. But we'll find out in a year if Jameson Williams is the real deal, if that's the case. I think it's really kind of neat that Brad Holmes is trading inside the division. Everybody thinks it's such a terrible thing. I just don't see it that way. You have to worry about what you've got to do, right? You got to worry about your team. And
right. Let me throw some stats at you, because I did some digging, and this is something that you usually do, or Greg Rice usually does on the main stage. But I did some digging right here, and I don't think that that's 100% accurate where you're coming from, where we're losing out. For one, I don't think that even there's only a couple of tight ends that I think that would be worthy of a first or second round pick to begin with, and TJ Hockenson isn't one of them. If you're not Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Andrews, or Kittle, I don't think that you're in that conversation. So when you're just thinking tight ends in general, serviceable tight ends, I'm thinking third round. You get 1 third-round pick. That's pretty good. So that counteracts the fact that you got 2 picks. You got a second and a third-round pick for TJ Hockenson, which I thought was really, really good. So PFF says, you said he was a top 12 tight end. So he's a top 12 tight end in receiving tight ends. He's actually ranked 8th in receiving. But if you break down his PFF pass blocking and run blocking, he doesn't even rank in the top 50 tight ends in the league.
Lay them stats on me, brother.
I'm laying them on you, because here's another stat that may surprise you: is Brock Wright is only 3 points behind him as far as PFF catching the ball. In pass blocking, he's 30 points higher than TJ Hockenson. So this move may have been just as much as a endorsement of Brock Wright as it is a I mean, really, they did trade away their top 10 pick from a few years back. They did just give him a 5th-year option, but maybe Brock Wright's playing a little bit better than we think that he is, and he is.
Right, and we're not at practice. We don't know what rookie James Mitchell is bringing to the table. We did get to see him make 1 catch in the Miami game. He looked great. I remember you commenting. You thought it was DeAndre Swift running with the ball. So we're not at practice. We don't know Well, they might have a lot of faith in James Mitchell and Brock Wright as a combination, blocking and catching,
Yep.
and they don't see TJ Hockenson as part of their long-term plans. So that's fine.
Now, there were some other trades within this division that are going to affect us, especially since we haven't played the Bears at all yet. But I mean, I know the Bears did lose Roquan, and then they lost Quinn too, but they did gain Chase Claypool today. So
Yeah.
I guess I kind of took that part over. But what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are they let go of a Pro Bowl linebacker and they let go of a Pro Bowl defensive lineman to get a wide receiver 2 from Pittsburgh. So I mean, they didn't trade for these players, obviously, but I think they made their team a little better on the offensive side and a lot worse on the defensive side. So
Right.
I think Detroit, Chicago's in a rebuild. We are in a perpetual rebuild. In fact, the word Detroit comes from a French word Detroit, meaning rebuild.
Oh, okay.
So no, I don't know if that's
Little,
true. But
hey, it's a little that may or may not be correct, but I'm totally feeling you with that retour right there.
and
Detroit.
Miami also got Bradley Chubb from Denver Broncos, so that's a
Oh,
big splash. The rich get richer. Their defense was a little weak. The Lions were able to put up 380 yards on them. So they bring in Bradley Chubb. That's really going to help them out there on
yep.
defense. So I know our buddy Reginald Johnson, the Miami Dolphin fans, he's jumping up and down right now, happy with that trade. So big news at the trade deadline. A lot of other moves around the league, but it didn't really impact the Lions a whole lot. So we're not going to talk about them here. It's time now to look ahead to next week. Hope for next week. That's what us Lions fans live on. And I love your graphic here. Mowtown getting cheesy.
It's
The
not
Green
easy
Bay
being
Packers and
cheesy.
their cheesehead fans coming to Ford Field. Green Bay travels well, so you know that their fan base will be well represented. We were fortunate to have Bill, the Packer fan from the NFC North Huddle, on our show yesterday on the main stage, which everybody, you guys can check that out. It streams live on Facebook every Monday at 6:30. It's Open Mic Monday on the main stage, where we take your questions, we take your comments, and we pass them around our panel of so-called experts and run them through. We run them through the mill, run them through the sifter, and see what shakes out.
So this will actually be a streaming live into the NFC North Huddle and the Detroit Lions group. We're going to go ahead and stream this in on Saturday. So you're going to get to see Monday's show streamed into the NFC North Huddle and the Detroit Lions group this weekend, in case you missed it. So that'll give you a chance to join those groups and, yeah, maybe even subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Green Bay comes in. They've lost 4 in a row, and that's bad news. Aaron Rodgers has never, ever lost 5 games in a row. So they are going to be hungry, and they're going to be looking at the Lions as a way to bounce back. Every single player on that team is going to be looking at this game as a way to get off the schneid and get back to winning. They started out the season, lost their first game, and then they rattled off 3 in a row. And now, subsequently, they have lost 4 in a row. So they come into Ford Field on a 4-game skid, looking to redeem themselves, and that's going to give the Lions all they can handle. You know why? Because they still have number 12 under center, Aaron Rodgers, who's been a Lion killer his entire career, and he loves killing the Lions and the Bears and the Vikings more than anything. And he's an assassin, but we are lucky. He's coming in with a depleted wide receiver core and a defense that's struggling. What are you looking for in this game, Russ, between the Lions and the Packers on Sunday?
The end of the Aaron Rodgers dynasty. I think this is a huge game for both teams, both franchises right here, because really I'm hanging on a thread. I got 1 foot in and 1 foot out for this season, to whether I'm going to start talking about draft picks or where I actually believe they can climb back into the season and make some noise. And this game is everything. Like, you got a wounded Green Bay team. It ain't going to be teed up any better for you than this. He has no wide receivers. He's got, this is the worst start that they may have ever had since his rookie year. So it's not going to get teed up any better for the Detroit Lions to win this game and really put an end to this Aaron Rodgers beatdown that he's given to the NFC North, because I think he is approaching the twilight of his career, and it does have to end at some point in time. And the way that their season has started, it really looks like this could be the time. So we're going to figure out a lot this week.
So what do you mean you have 1 foot in and 1 foot out? You mean on this season?
Giving
if the
up.
Lions lose 3 more, then Russ, you're telling me they'll be 1-9. What are you going to do? A show about pro wrestling?
You just made the list.
Well, we might have to. No. The thing is we just have to pivot and talk about the things that are going to be relevant to the team, which once they're out of the playoff contention, and which, look, they can go on a streak. All right. They could win 8 or 9 games still. You know, they could run right through the rest of this schedule, and everybody's looking at me like I'm the homer, but that's all right. That's what we do. We got to stay positive until we're mathematically eliminated, and we're not mathematically eliminated right now.
We have to stay positive, but we also have to stay realistic. I mean, there are definitely, I see 5 or 6 for sure winnable games for the Lions. It's really tough to be hopeful, but that's what we have. And coming in, I think you make a great point. This is a winnable game. It's a divisional game, so it's always tough. You're in Ford Field. So let's talk about the key matchups of the game. I'm going to start it off, and I'm going to take your answer. It's going to be their depleted wide receivers against our almost inept DBs.
It really is. It's like it's the battle of awful. And we can't wait to see their awful wide receivers against our awful defensive backs. And I mean, it's a great chance for one of the two units to get right.
Yeah.
Like the one thing that I do believe that we have over previous Lions teams is youth. Like usually when you're in the middle of the season, it's because the stud guy that you spent $1 million to $50 million on he got injured and there's nobody. The guys that are behind the people that got injured for us are the rookies, and they're actually showing out in some of the spots. So the fact that you could have continuity, because you know about bands, like when you start practicing, these guys could start getting the feel for each other and getting continuity and tightness with each other. So I'm excited to see if that could happen. So there's still excitement for this season for me. I have not given up on this season yet.
Right. Well, you make a great point. They are without their number 1 receiver, Alan Lazard, this week. They are without their number 1 draft pick, Christian Watson, this week. All they have is a rookie from Nevada named Romeo Doubs, who's been playing pretty good. And they have a guy, I can't even pronounce his name. I think it's Toure or Meltorme or something. I don't know who they got, some guy over there. The Sammy injury report, Watkins is also expected to play. Sammy Watkins will probably light up the Lions. One thing that scares me, though, is they have a great double-headed running game with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. Against Buffalo, they ran for 147 yards. Aaron Jones did by himself. Can the Lions stop this running game? And then you've got Aaron Rodgers, the all-world quarterback, who can take half-ass receivers and make them better. He can throw them open. And when he's playing against a subpar secondary, he normally has a big day, no matter who the receivers are. So I definitely see the intriguing matchup with the wide receivers against our DBs, and I see the intriguing matchup of our defense against their run game. On the flip side of that, there is our offense against their defense has been struggling. And I think the Lions offense is going to be able to move the ball against Green Bay. So if we can get some semblance of defense, we can win this game. Maybe the firing of Aubrey Pleasant will be enough to fire up that unit. Maybe it'll be enough to energize the team and the coaching staff and give us enough inertia to get past Green Bay in this tough home matchup. What do you think?
Well, let me ask you a question. What if Aubrey Pleasant was the problem? What if getting rid of him, all of a sudden they bring some semblance of continuity into that defensive backfield, and then they put a complete game together because of Aubrey Pleasant? I mean, has anybody even entertained that
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
Okay. Just look at the tape.
It's just SOL then.
No. I mean, he
Yeah.
plays man coverage. They get burned. So he goes to a zone. They get burned. What else can Aubrey Pleasant do? I mean, now, other than running up and pushing Aurorier back onto his own side of the line of scrimmage, there isn't a whole lot.
Come on.
He could do.
Cornerback. Oh my gosh. I mean, I just have to bring this back out again just because it's so ridiculous. I mean, look at this.
Ridiculous.
Look at this. That is on your you coach. You coach. How does this even happen? That somebody has to pay for that, and you're not gonna just cut Aurier, but somebody had to pay for that. And I was just thinking, it's like, man, maybe they just are like this, and it just ain't happening, and maybe they do bring some semblance back to it. I don't know. Just a thought.
So Lions are 1-6, and Packers have lost 4 straight. Packers made no moves at the trade deadline, and their fan base is pissed. So is this a bigger game for Green Bay, or is this a bigger game for Detroit?
Is that a loaded question? I would have to say
no. I already know your answer. You're going to say it's a bigger game for Detroit.
No, I'm going to say it's a bigger game for the Green Bay.
Oh, wow. Okay. You're surprising me tonight.
Usually you brought up something to Bill the Packer fan yesterday that was just kind of like, he was like, we've never lost like 5 games in a row before. And it's like, yeah, when you go 13-3 every year, how in the hell are you going to lose 5 games in a row?
Yeah.
And it's like, they've never been, they're out in the abyss right now. They're in the deep, deep waters, and their fan base has no idea how to react. And I loved your response to him as being like, all right, let's just say that it continued for 60 years. That's our fan base. That's it. We be living in that world like 24/7. Here we are. So is it a bigger game for Detroit? We've been here before. We suck again, but they're not used to it. So I think it's a way bigger game for Green Bay.
I bet Green Bay didn't see that coming, that coming into Ford Field would be a big game, and it's not because of the Lions' record. They're playing the 1-6 Lions, and this is a big game for them. Wow, what a switch. I have to say that I think this is a bigger game for Detroit in the way that I think Green Bay's looking past us. This is a gimme. Even though they're on a down year, I think Aaron Rodgers is so arrogant, and that team just thinks they own us. And if they do come in and own us with a depleted receiving core and they run crazy all over it, that might just demoralize this team to the point where they just give up on Dan Campbell and they stop buying in. I think we're on the precipice of that now. And I think this is a huge game for the Lions to come out of it 2-6 instead of 1-7 and keep that fire of hope lit. I mean, the pilot light is just flickering right now for hope. And this kicks it up a notch if we can beat Green Bay at home. Division rival. I think it's a big, big game for Detroit, even bigger than it is for Green Bay. It's time now for our predictions. We're going to predict this Lions game, and I'm going to go first. I think the Lions win the game 27-21.
Well, I think that the Lions win the game 28-24.
All right. Welcome to the Homer Depot.
These lock picks have been a lot of fun for me. I didn't think I was going to have as much fun making these picks, but it's been a lot of fun playing these point spreads, and I can see why people gamble.
Yes, Russ, you are. Through 8 games, you are 6-2, which is a phenomenal predicting record. So great job, 6-2. You won last week because you took the San Francisco 49ers against the Los Angeles Staffords, and they crushed them. The Niners beat the Rams at home, and that pushed your record to 6-2. So kudos to you. Who do you have this week?
So, I mean, some of these things, they just kind of talk to me, right? So you're going through the picks right here, and we just traded TJ Hockenson to the Minnesota Vikings. And yeah,
Hockenson.
And I do think that he makes a difference. I think he is a definite upgrade, even where they had Irv Smith and Hockenson is definitely a step above that. And they're only laying 3.5 to the Washington Commanders. And there is no way that the Washington Commanders can come in and beat Russell Wayne twice in 1 year. I just don't think that it can happen. Give me the Vikings. I'll lay the 3 points. Lock it up.
It's 3.5 for the record.
Give me, lay 3.5. I'd even give them 4.
So the 6-2 Russell Wayne show is giving up 3.5 on the road to Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders, and that's his lock pick of the week. Take it to the bank, folks. Time now for my lock pick of the week. I am not doing quite as good as you, but I am definitely doing pretty good. 5-3 on the year in my lock picks, and if I could go 5-3 out of every 8 picks, I could quit my job and quit this job and quit every job because I could make enough money if I knew I was going to win 5 out of 8 on every bet. So I'm doing pretty good. A little pat on the back for me. I'm going to go back to the and bet against Chicago Bears again. Twice this year, I have padded my record against the lowly Bears and Bustin Fields. And I think that Miami's flying high. Adding Bradley Chubb on defense is going to energize them even more. And so I'm taking the Miami Dolphins -5 against the Chicago Bears at home. What do you think of that pick?
The Bears. The Bears. The Bears. The Bears.
So that's
it. Bears.
The Bears. We still got to play them twice. We still got to play the Bears twice, the Lions. So there's still a little pilot light lit of hope for a 5 or 6 win season, maybe.
There is, and next week we're going to actually do a show, and we're going to do a show about the Bears, but we're going to be speaking with Mark Oram from Oram's Forum. He's going to be in the house. This is going to be an exclusive interview. So this is going to be a one-on-one between main event Mike right here and Mark Oram. And really, we want to know about the future of this franchise. And I really want to know what somebody of his clout would think about the future of this franchise. And you can find him on YouTube under Oram's Forum, and keeps up on all the current stuff. He's very knowledgeable. It's going to be an honor to have him right here on the main event for the exclusive interviews for sure.
And tell our listeners when that airs.
The podcast is going to air on November 10th, which is going to be a week from this Thursday. So this is something new that we've been trying to get going for the last couple of weeks. And Mark Oram was the first one of the podcasters to step up to the plate. And yeah, that's awesome that we get to have somebody like Mark on the show.
Awesome. I'm excited about it. Well, I think that does it for this edition of the Main Event 365 podcast. We want to thank everyone for listening. Be sure to head over to YouTube and like our channel and like our content so we can keep this thing going. For the producer, Russ Wayne, I'm your host, Main Event Mike, saying God bless you all. Forward down the field. Peace out.